Hello and welcome to the Sacred Cards channel. Thank you so much for joining me as I showcase my updated Dinomorphia deck profile for October 2024. The other day I posted an update to my pure dinosaur deck profile, so if you enjoy dinos as much as I do, definitely go check out my channel for that video. Dinomorphia is a deck that breaks the laws of ego, as this is one of the most high-risk, high-reward decks I've ever played. By constantly cutting our life points in half, we gain access to very powerful effects, counter traps, along with massive layers of protection for our few remaining life points. Now, I generally don't favor decks that floodgate my opponent from being able to play the game, but there is something so satisfying about firing off traps and effects on my opponent, getting myself down to 250 life points, and watching them frantically try to out the Rex terms, staring them down on my side of the field. I'll get to the deck profile now and show you the cards I'm playing and why. Getting right into the Dinomorphia engine, you love to see it. 3 copies of Therizia. One of 2 normal summons for the deck. On summon, we'll set a Dinomorphia trap card from the deck while also having the ability to summon a level 4 lower Dinomorphia if it were destroyed. Equally as important to the deck, in my opinion, is 3 copies of Diplos. I can understand why people cut this card to 2 copies, but for me, this card is just as important for the deck as anything else, because I found enough situations where I have both of these monsters in my hand, with Diplos being a better normal summon at the time. So, depending on what I have access to. If I already have Domain or Frenzy, plus other negates, then I'm already set. It's more beneficial to send a card to the graveyard that Kentragina can use with their effect. Sometimes I'll use Diplos to send Therizia to the grave to get access to Therizia that way. Resources are key if you want to survive any type of grind game, or a grind situation rather. Now, I'm also going to break the rules of deck profiling here and talk about the Dinomorphia extra deck monsters right now. Right out of the gate, I am playing 3 copies of Rex Term, 3 Kentragina. Jeez. Sorry about the glare on my lighting. I didn't actually expect it to be that bad. What you can still see. And 3 copies of Stealth Bergia. Now, I guess understanding these cards' effects gives you more insight to how the deck functions around them and their synergy with the rest of the strategy. Rex requires another fusion monster in its summon, whether from the field or extra deck, so you want to maximize your resources for that. Prosperity is another factor to consider. Rex will not allow your opponent to activate monster effects that are higher than your life points. If you get to Rex, you will already be 1,000 life points or less. It floats to a level 6 or lower, and if that's not enough, you can quick effect cut your life points in half, make all your opponent's monsters attack equal to your life points. An absolute boss of a monster Rex is. Kentragina is by far the most versatile card in the deck because it can access a quick effect to banish any normal Dinomorphia trap in the graveyard and copy its effect, which makes your options for targets with Diplos that much more important based on the cards you already have at your disposal. Kentragina will also float into either Therizia or Diplos when destroyed. The choice can be very important whether you need protection or access to a card effect through Diplos, or whether you need to set a card for the next turn with Therizia. Stealth Bergia is a card I truly think the deck needs because there are times when you want this card in play. I think a lot of players underestimate and overlook this card, only using it for Rex turn materials, but I will continue to play 3 copies because I too want to use it for materials, but I will keep one in my back pocket if I need to close out the game through its burn effect or access Solemn Strike without having to pay costs. Again, I know it's a one-off prosperity, but it's also something to consider. I'll say it again, if you want to survive any type of grind game, then you are going to be very thankful you had the extra Diplos or Stealth Bergia. These are, of course, my personal opinions based on my experiences with the deck and probability calculations that satisfy me and how I want the deck to function. I encourage everyone to play how they see fit. I will never judge or criticize except for my distaste for scrap package in dinos, but I've made enough points on that debate. Moving on, I think it's appropriate to discuss the fusion traps 3 copies of Dinomorphia Domain, and triple copies of Dinomorphia Frenzy. Both these fusion traps are equally important to the deck. Domain may be arguably better as it can be used during either player's main phase. Every Dinomorphia trap requires you to pay half your life points, which we welcome every single time. Domain will fuse with materials from the hand, deck, or field. Frenzy will fuse with a monster from the extra deck and one from the main deck. Again, another example of why you want the resources available. All the Dinomorphia normal traps share the clause that if your life points are 200 or 2,000 or less, they will protect you from any effect damage that turn. Now, the other 2 Dinomorphia normal traps are 2 copies of Dinomorphia Alert and the 1 copy of Brute. 2 alert has always been my go-to ratio, as again you want access to Reborn your Rex, Kentragina, or other monsters that might be best to play at the time. You need to maintain that board presence, otherwise we become very vulnerable, no doubt. Plus, being able to trap trick this card has been clutch when I've needed it. Brute is a perfect one of, easy to access, and doesn't choose favorites, getting rid of anything on the opponent's field. Plus, destroying your own monsters can be super beneficial as well. Now for the Dinomorphia counter traps, we have 3 copies of Intact and the 1 Sonic. Intact is a monster negate so long as you have any Dinomorphia card face up on the field. The best example given is if you activate Domain or Frenzy and your opponent says, I activate Ash Blossom, we say, good, I was hoping you would. Intact can be activated to negate it as we meet the condition of controlling a Dinomorphia card. The ability that this card also has that's unique to itself is that if it's been activated this turn, you can't lose, as your life points will only be cut in half every time you take any battle damage. Sonic can negate a spell trap, then destroy a Dinomorphia monster we control, but as mentioned before, we can often benefit from our own destruction effects. Both counter traps can be used to protect our life points if you were to take battle damage. Again, it's another point for Diplos being able to save us once again. Now that wraps up the Dinomorphia cards I'm playing. The rest of the main engine, I have designated 8 slots to maintaining consistency in the form of 3 copies of Trap Trick, 3 copies of Pot of Duality, the 1 Pot of Prosperity, the 1 Fossil Dig, and the 1, oh, sorry, that one doesn't actually belong in there, and the 1 Fossil Dig. So Trap Trick, I'm constantly messing around with 1, 2, or 3 copies. 3 copies filled the deck nicely to 40 cards, and I do love seeing this card give me additional copies of Domain, Frenzy, Alert, and if I'm all set there, I have another form of Disruption, which I can access, which I will get to in just a moment. So duality has never been an issue, as I really like being able to dig for pieces that I need at a cost that doesn't hinder my deck. Same goes for prosperity as well. Fossil Dig is not great, but certainly not bad, which is why I went with the 1 copy. If I use this first, my opponent immediately thinks I want to search Oviraptor or Baby Ceratosaurus. It's good ash bait. If this card doesn't go through, I'm usually still able to play, or my hand has enough Solemn Strikes, Judgments, and Thunders that I'm going to be just fine regardless. So I'm never relying on this card specifically. So that is 27 cards for the main engine, which leaves me 13 slots for Disruption. And I've also cut the Zedark package, or the Zedark package. I'm still a big fan, but I had been using it so long, I thought it might be worth taking out for other cards. I don't have much preference either way. I'm sure it will make its way back into the deck in time. So for this list, I'm playing 3 copies of Solemn Strike, 3 Solemn Judgment, 3 Iron Thunder, 3 Ferret Flames, and the 1 Called by the Grave. With the exception of Called by the Grave, all these cards have amazing synergy with the deck, cutting down our life points, and spell speed 3 negates, none of which are once per turn, and Strike is the black sheep here. Unbelievable card, but late game we can't usually pay the cost. Hence, also, if my life points are already well below 1,000, I will set up with a Stealth Bergia to finish off my opponent with the effect damage and not have to pay cost of life points. Ferret Flames is another trap trick target that we can abuse, making our opponent shuffle back all their monsters, as they won't be able to hold anything or respond to you because all they have is 50 life points. Rexterm says you're not activating anything anyways, and Ferret Flames burns off their side of the field so we can go for game. Again, not once per turn, so I have no problem with multiple copies. So that does round out our 40 card main deck. Whether you're an experienced Dinomorphia player or someone who is interested in learning the deck, I hope you're able to get something out of it. Definitely give this list a go and let me know what your experience is like with the deck. I always enjoy having those discussions with you. Rounding out the deck profile with the extra deck here, you already know 9 of the cards, 3 copies of Rexterm, 3 copies of Kentragina, 3 copies of Stealth Bergia, and I'm also playing the 1 SP, the 1 Logia, 1 Dolka, 1 Lars, 1 Typhon, and the 1 Baguska to round out the extra deck. So that includes my Dinomorphia deck profile for October 2024. Hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything you like or don't like, please leave me a comment telling me what your thoughts are. Be sure to like the video if you did, share with your friends, hit subscribe and get notified for more content. As always, thank you for the love and support tuning into Sacred Cards. See you all in the next one.